when we get those messages, we make sure to try to get those out.
Yeah. But thank you for working.
Thank you, yeah.
You've had an unusual amount of strange experiences in your job here in Kansas, coming from Florida. Started off with COVID. Bet you didn't ever have cold like this in Florida.
Not so much, yeah. A little different here.
Thanks for
But we did have hurricanes, so.
Yeah, you did. Thank you, Steve.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Anyone else have a public comment that on pertaining to anything not on the agenda? You may come forward and please identify yourself. I know who you are, but the rest of the people may not.
My name is Sandra Brennan, and I'm
Step over, please, and over by the microphone.
My name is Sandra Brennan, and I just have a question. What about homeless people with pets? What arrangements are there for the pets?
Yeah, our contingency would be the animal control could take possession of the pet. And that'd be the safe haven for the animal. We don't allow pets in our shelters for obvious reasons, unless it's a licensed, personal animal. But other than that, we coordinate through animal control.
And I know they are at overflow right now.
Yeah, and they're willing to work with us and try to come up with some, solutions.
I was just curious about
Thank
that
you.
aspect of it.
I expect you may be here also to talk about a dog show in a little bit, right?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Anyone else have public comment? Not then, we're gonna move ahead on the agenda, and the next thing on the agenda is the county survey reviewer. Robert?
As you recall from last meeting, the commission discussed this topic after taking some comments from various surveyors in public last time. As we were in a work session mode, no decision was formally made, so we do need to make a formal decision on what we want to do with this. In general, from what I recall, was that the general consensus was to leave this the same for at least another 6 months and evaluate it at that point in time. And that's really before the Board of County Commissioners today is what is it you want to do, if anything, with your current arrangement?
Well, Mr. Chairman, just a couple of points of clarification. One is, we signed the contract with Dave Matthews in January of last year, if I recall. And also, I recall that I was told that it's not a year contract, we could terminate it at any time if we chose to in writing. Either party could do that, is what I understood. Am I correct in those understandings?
You're correct, and I would imagine, I think it was signed actually in February or March of last year, because I wasn't here in January.
Yeah, I know it was early last year. For some reason, I thought I saw January in some of our documentation, but nevertheless, early of 2020. And so, Mr. Chairman, my position would be to leave it as is. If we see that it's causing great stress to our surveyors, and we continue to communicate with Carol Davidson, with the planning, that's not the right department, whatever their department is, then we can assess that periodically and see if it is working or not. Because, and the reason for my position is because Dave just moved in December. This long distance relationship has not been going for 60 days even at this point. So I think it's premature for us to make any changes at this point, would be my position.
Any comment?
Just looking beneath the surface, it appears that there's a personality conflict here that's not going to go away. And I'm with Commissioner Pishney that we should give this some time, but I would like to put a date on it so that it is evaluated somewhat objectively. My own bias is to do things locally as much as possible, and so my thought would be to review this again by first meeting in July, so that we can put this behind us, because I don't think the personnel issues are going away.
Joanne, any comment?
Pretty much agree. The commissioners have already spoken. I too think we need to leave the contract in place. And I do recognize what Dr. Clifford said about the personality conflict. I'll be so bold as to make a motion to get this off dead center, that we continue with the current contract to be reviewed in our July meeting.
I'll second. Clifford seconds.
We have a motion second, I don't know if that's necessary, but we'll follow through with it. Any further discussion? The motion and the second is to continue with the present agreement with Dave Matthews as our county survey reviewer until one of the meetings in July, at which time we'll review. Is that correct?
Correct.
All those in that favor then say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That carried. Is Jeff online? Jeff Stevens, we can get you dialed up. You're next up on the agenda. There he is. Morning, Jeff.
Morning, Commissioner. How are you?
We need to turn his volume up just a little bit, please.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you if you listen very carefully, but can you hear him out in the audience? Yes, they're saying, okay, go ahead, Jeff.
Well, I hope you all are staying warm. I was talking to Robert this morning, and I see the jackets that everybody has on in the room. So I'm hoping the heat kicks on for you all here in a minute. But I'll be quick, recognizing that. The Spark program update, just we submitted the most recent report to the state. Julianne and Dory are working on finalizing some of the other pieces that were left outstanding, and we should have everything closed out as it relates to Spark, on the March, before the March report. That's pending the kind of the allocation of the SERV grant as well. Okay. Any questions on the Spark grant, real quick?
Question or comment, anybody? I guess we understand.
Okay, so next I want to talk about the Household Emergency Relief Grant and kind of review some application pieces for you. I've got some decision points that we have for you. We wanted, Commissioner, as you know, what we talked about in the Thursday meeting, and I want to just share my screen real quick.
And Jeff, I'll point out to you as you're sharing screens that Roxanne's in the room today. And
Great.
yeah.
Hello, Roxanne.
Good morning.
So, Commissioners, what I have up on the screen is just kind of a brief update as to where we are with the county's Household Emergency Relief Program right now. We've had 55 applications, which is great. I think it's a testament to the outreach efforts that have been done, and then some pent-up demand as well for the items that the community needed. 38 of those were rental applicants, 14 were mortgage, and I'll talk to you in a little bit why that's important. And then 3 were pending a little bit more information to know if they were rental or mortgage. We have about 18 ready to fund. So within the first 2 weeks of the program, we were able to get through 18. There are 7 applicants that you see below that I want to talk to you about, that they're more than 4 months past due. None of these applicants below had applied during round 1 of the program. And then just as a data point, none of these 7 had applied, like I said, but there is 1 applicant of the 55 that had applied in round 1 and still needs some assistance. Okay? The 7 that are below, and I hope that you can see this okay, these are ones where there's kind of unique cases. There's a couple that are past due longer, so this, very low or extreme low income on all of the cases. The past due amounts are 6 and 8 months. This is the only one that was kind of pre-COVID, if you would, in terms of being back due. It appears that there was some job loss in the home, and because of COVID, it has exacerbated the situation, and they're behind. They've been making payments and working through, as is this case. But what we wanted to bring to you as the decision point is, one, there's two big questions. Is, for the back rents, do we fund more than 4 months if they, if it's below that 10,000 threshold? And then also for some of these other items, do we try to, fund up to that max of 10,000? Okay. Before you make any decision on that, I want to talk about the Kansas Emergency Rental Assistance Program. Okay, but so we'll put a pin in this for a second. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And really what comes into is that the state has announced the Kansas Emergency Rental Assistance Program. At the end of last year, as part of the $900 billion package, there was $25 billion that was for emergency rental assistance. The state of Kansas has received $200 million. Of that, $180 million is available for grants. There were some direct awardees, of counties. So now, those counties over 200,000. So the state has about $150 million to spend in this emergency rental assistance pool. Right now, their grant application, is that they will provide 12 months of assistance. One of the major questions, that we had is that 12 months go back to the beginning of the pandemic, or does it end at the end of the year? Their application program their application is currently estimated to open on March 15th. It'll be open till August 1st, and then the program ends on December 31st. They've said they provide a maximum of 12 months assistance. It is just for rental assistance right now. They have a question into the Treasury to see if mortgage assistance was possible or not, and they're still waiting to hear back on that. Treasury has not released their frequently asked questions on that. It's a joint process between landlords and tenants. It's, like I said, maximum of 12 months assistance. There is no maximum dollars that are within this program at all. There is some increased documentation requirements than what we currently have in HHR, that you have to show a much stronger nexus to a COVID hardship, and display that you're at risk of experiencing housing instability or homelessness. And lastly, it is only rental assistance, like I said. And then on the utilities, it is energy and water only, no internet or anything else like that. So this program is out there. It kind of, it works in concert with the HHR program in many ways. But any of these grants that we talked about, the duplication, there would be no duplication of benefits for the individual households, because they'd have to share that information to the state, and in many ways this could pay forward for the rest of the year for some of these households that we are talking about. So I'll pause there for any questions.
Mr. Chairman?
Just a minute, please, Lon, go right ahead.
Jeff, I guess my question is, I'm feeling for our low-income people who need this assistance. Do they even, unless Roxanne's staff is guiding and helping through this state process, a lot of these folks are just going to get overwhelmed and don't even know this program's available to them.
I completely agree with those sentiments. And in many cases, there was a state program that ran last year with Spark funds that I can tell you, in talking with Robert and talking with our other clients throughout Kansas, nobody knew about it. It was done in using community agencies, not getting the counties involved. And when we reported to the state how successful we were being with some of our programs, they didn't even fully recognize the impact. We've asked the state to try and make that 150 million, make a portion of that available to the county, because we think would be well managed locally, with their rules and restrictions, but they're not comfortable doing that at this time. So,
Okay, hang on just a minute, please, Jeff. Lon, you have.
Mr. Chairman, Jeff, just clarification, I hear you using the word grants, so this money that's coming through the state, this 150 million, is not in the form of loans, it's in grants. Is it, and I realize that many people who are being assisted do not qualify to pay income tax and so forth because of their income limitations, but is that a taxable event when they receive that money from the state? And then lastly, is it only for low income, that rental assistance through the state, is it only for low income, or is it for anyone that needs rental assistance because they've lost a job or whatever?
so I'm gonna let Julianne jump in on that tax piece, if she's got any information, because I don't know if it's taxable income or not, candidly. Julianne, I don't know if you have an answer. You're still muted.
She's not showing.
Julianne, you need to turn your mic on.
She's not showing us muted.
No, I know, it doesn't look like she's muted, but her mic's not on. We have a chat, she can chat it to me, if she's having trouble with the mic, but the, other, Commissioner, the other part of your question, so Julianne's saying we have to wait on the guidelines to know if that's a taxable piece or not. We don't know for sure, but it is a grant, it's not a loan. So that, I think that's one of the major pieces. And there was another, you asked another piece?
Well, are there income qualifications for them to be eligible, is another way of me asking the question.
Yeah, they did mention low income, and obviously the state's program hasn't launched. In many ways, they're waiting for the Treasury guidance to come out, and the frequently asked questions. I think the major piece is going to be really that COVID nexus versus how much income an individual makes, and also the overriding instability of that household. So if that household is going to be negatively impacted, at risk of homelessness, even if they made $100,000 in their previous job, maybe that was their first six-figure job. Okay, they had no savings. They're at risk of homelessness, so they would be ineligible funding if they lost jobs and they had zero income.
Thank you.
Bill,
And Jeff, Dr. Clifford, does it make sense for us to make people whole in the 20 year with our program and then assume that the state will carry them in the new year?
And Commissioner, that's exactly where we're leaning in terms of recommendation. It does make sense to make them whole up to the maximum of the program that you have set. And then it allows them to also apply to the state. And I think that's one of the big things is Roxanne's team can be further leveraged to really support. We have a list of all of these households that were impacted. We can reach out to them again when the state's application comes out, and there may be some funding for Roxanne. Roxanne, this is probably new information for you. I know you're in the room. There could be some potential new funding for you as well to support some of that outreach. We've got a question into the state for clarification on that, but Julianne will follow up with you after that, after this meeting. But we can not only support the local program, make them whole, but then also help them with the, applying to the state.
Sure, that makes sense, and I think we have so-called navigators here locally who get the local situation. I deal with patients trying to get on the Obamacare plans, and it's absolutely bewildering unless you have a navigator to get you through that process. I think it would apply here as well.
It's a perfect correlation between the two, and I think that's the real success is going to be having Roxanne's team. And honestly, 55 applications in the first 2 weeks is a good credit to her team.
anything else, Bill? Robert, do you have anything?
No.
Jeff, before we bid you a good day, can you restate kind of in straightforward terms the two programs we have, HHE on the local level that has, I don't know the exact amount of money left, but not a lot. And what it covers, or is eligible to cover, and then the state program kind of parallels with 150 million that covers something else. Can you restate that?
Sure.
please?
So the local household emergency relief program, that covers rental and mortgage assistance up to 4 months in arrears, for those that are past due, for rent, mortgage, and utilities, and then also up to 2 months of assistance going forward, okay? What I heard you all say just now, and I want to confirm with you, is that, we can go back for, it's the commission's guidance that we can go back further than 4 months to make people whole, as long as we keep that $10,000 cap. Is that correct?
I think that's probably the consensus, yes, sir.
Okay, great. So that, we'll make people whole up into that amount. The state's program, and obviously that's run locally, that's done with county dollars, and Roxanne's team is coordinating that. The state's program, the Kansas Emergency Rental Assistance Program, the application is not out yet. It is approximately going to be out on March 15th. There are things that will still change. What we know for sure is that they are providing rental assistance, and energy and utility bills are limited to energy and water only. So those pieces that are in there. The program will be open until August 1st, and it will run, then all of the dollars will be expended by December 31st. They anticipate a maximum of 12 months of assistance. There is no maximum dollar amounts, and the documentation, you have to show a COVID-19 hardship and a risk of experiencing housing instability or homelessness.
You did a good job of wrapping that up. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Anything? We have somebody pointing here, just a minute, Jeff.
Did you want to hear from Roxanne this morning, since she's in the room on the program?
If you would be so inclined, Roxanne, we'd love to hear from you. We're bringing Roxanne to the mic here, Jeff, so hang on.
I see her.
I agree, is this on? I agree with everything that Jeff said, and being able to make these people whole and move them forward gives them an opportunity to step forward. So I think it's a great opportunity, and we had already planned on keeping computers on and helping with the rental assistance program at the state, so we're excited.
Thank you for your hard work, Roxanne.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. Anything else?
One final thing is, I got asked to provide you some information on the Sparks Round 2, what that might look like, and that's out of the 1.9 trillion rescue plan that President Biden is working on. They're trying to, it passed its first big hurdles previously on a vote between the House and the Senate. They're now working on the fine pieces of the bill. It continues to advance forward. The goal is to get it passed by March 14th. Within that bill, there's 4 main goals. 1, funding a comprehensive COVID response plan. 2, delivering relief to working families. 3, supporting communities that are struggling. And 4, protecting against future cyber attacks. So to that end, there's about $350 billion currently slated in the bill to support local communities, states, state, local, and tribal territorial governments. What that means for you all is that if that does pass, the thought process is there will likely be a Spark Round 2 that we've just discussed all along. This is moving forward. So again, I kind of think about, I raised to you all to think about, okay, what are the other items that we didn't close with Spark Round 1 that we could potentially use going forward?
We'll try to think about that in the meantime, so. Sorry we couldn't hear from Julianne today, but but she can wave. So, anyway, Jeff, thank you guys. You have a good week, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, stay warm, everybody.
All right, thank you. Health Department, we have Colleen here or someone, there she is.
Yes,
Sure,
Chairman.
we'll get one just, sure. Robert, how these applications that are approved, do you get those signed pretty quick, and so they're out the door and nobody's been sent out to these folks?
We have not approved any of them as of yet. I think we have those online for today, in fact, is that correct?
Yes, yes, so we were kind of waiting on your decision about this, so we would know
Oh, for the
how
limits.
much. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, but those will, the first round will go out this week.
good.
And then we'll plan to do those every first and third Monday along with all of our other payables. So just kind of roll them into the process.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Now, Colleen.
Gonna see, we have a PowerPoint presentation this morning. Ah, perfect. Okay. So, thank you for the opportunity to speak before you today. We are grateful for the partnership of numerous county departments and the county commission in regards to combating COVID-19 in our community. Today, I am going to inform you of the current status of COVID-19 in Finney County, explain where we are at vaccinations of residents, and examine some of the data from the past several months to share with you the impact of COVID-19 in our community. Next slide, please. There we go. Perfect. The data I'm sharing with you today on current case count is from the end of day on Friday. The situation report is what was released last week. We'll have an updated situational report at the end of the day. So the numbers that we are reviewing will be different from the end of day report. There are 121 active cases. That is, there are 121 people who are laboratory confirmed positive cases, not yet released from their isolation. This does not include the total number of residents in our community that are currently quarantined due to exposure. There are 5,930 total positive cases and 10,113 total negative cases. 3 individuals are currently hospitalized at St. Catherine's Hospital with COVID-19, and we have 48 confirmed Finney County residents that have passed away due to the virus. Our positivity rate is calculated off of the percentage of positive tests from individuals tested by the health department, as it is the testing location where we have the most control over receiving complete data sets. January 25th through the 29th is the most recent week where we have received results for all tests. That week we had a positivity rate of 8%. Finney County Health Department tested 157 people that week and had 13 positive results. When looking at the new positive cases from all locations testing Finney County residents, we added a total of 40 new positive results that week, and a total of 263 individuals that were tested that were reported to us. The risk assessment for Finney County is calculated using data from the past 3 weeks of the number of new positive cases, average hospitalizations, and total fatalities. Finney County has seen marked progress within the past several weeks. However, there is still a moderate risk of contracting COVID-19 in Finney County. Testing numbers in our community have decreased, and we ask that residents continue to be proactive in scheduling tests to give us the most accurate evaluation of COVID-19 in Finney County. For information on how to schedule a test at the testing locations available in Finney County, we have this information on our website, finneycounty.org/COVID-hub. Next slide, please. Thank you. We are continuing to work with KDHE and community partners to distribute COVID-19 vaccinations in Finney County. All counties in Kansas are moving through the phases together in order to officially distribute the vaccine distribute and vaccinate residents across the state. However, KDHE has allowed local health departments to decide prioritization of populations as they navigate each phase of the vaccination plan. We are currently in phase 2 of the vaccination plan, and enrollment is currently open to those from phase 1 that are not yet vaccinated. So this includes healthcare personnel, long-term care facility employees and residents, first responders, law enforcement, firefighters, corrections, licensed clergy, and persons aged 65 and older. We will continue to announce eligible populations as we navigate through phase 2 of the plan, and we'll continue to release this information via several communication methods, which includes our website, Facebook page, local news media, and radio. We expect to move to new tiers of eligibility this week, and we will announce those who qualify as we move through the plan. This will open the enrollment form for residents to enroll for the wait list for scheduling. Phase 2 has a very broad range of eligible populations. We're hoping to be able to move through the phase quickly as we receive additional supply. We want to thank all of our residents for their patience as we work to vaccinate residents as quickly as our supply allows. We ask that residents that are currently eligible for vaccination at this time navigate to the appointment link that can be found in the pinned post on our Facebook page or on our website at finneycounty.org/COVID-hub. At the end of last week, we launched additional communication avenues for our residents to register or contact us to register for vaccines. We created a new email address, ficovaccine@gmail.com, a new call line, 620-272-3605. Residents may also contact Live Well Finney County or Genesis Family Health to fill out an enrollment form on their behalf. We have reverted to also utilizing the online enrollment form that we launched at the beginning of COVID vaccines, that we utilize to wait list patients, and then we schedule appointments from that wait list. As of today, we have over 3,600 residents that have received a COVID-19 vaccination. At the beginning of February, we launched a collaborative mass vaccination clinic with Genesis Family Health, St. Catherine Hospital, and Live Well Finney County to better accommodate the increased vaccination rate as we move through the phases. COVID-19 vaccinations will be given at the Finney County Fairgrounds exhibition building. Our clinic hours and days vary depending upon the supply we receive each day, and appointment times will be coordinated with the individuals at the time of scheduling. Walk-ins are currently not accepted in an effort to safely distribute vaccines with appropriate social distancing and to decrease wait time of individuals being vaccinated. We have administered close to 1,000 vaccines the past 2 weeks, and another 1,000 vaccines are planned this week. We expect to be able to increase vaccine numbers as we receive more inventory. Next slide, please. Next, I'm going to present some data surrounding the dates of our peak of case numbers last November, as well as a full look back on the case numbers and impact COVID-19 has had on our community since first infection. We have seen a drastic decrease in positive cases and hospitalizations since preventative actions have been recommended and at times required in our community. Of course, the face covering requirement went into effect when Finney County was at its peak with hospitalizations, positive cases, and positivity rate. The data I'll show you today looks at all of 2020 to present, as well as 3 weeks before the face covering requirement went into effect on November 16th, and then the weeks following. Next slide, please. So currently on this slide, you see the full hospitalizations for last year. As you can see, April through May, we had our peak in May of last year. And then again, we had our peak in hospitalizations in December. And then you begin to see a very gradual decrease after December. Next slide, please. Here we show the average hospitalizations per week. And then as those begin to decline, you see the average decline. When analyzing face covering mandates, you typically would see the impact of a face covering mandate around a month following that mandate due to general transmission, currently infected numbers. So you'd see a gradual decrease 2 weeks, and then hospitalizations to be potentially affected about a month after. As you can see, that December we had our height. November 16th is when the mask mandate went in place, so we were working up to our height of cases, and then after that mandate, about a month after, you then began to see that gradual decrease. The most recent week, our average is 7.8 for January 25th through the 31st, as you can see there on the end of that slide. Next case, please, or next slide. Positive cases. So likewise, you see similar trend when considering the number of new positive cases per week. You can see that initial peak, April and May, and then a gradual decrease throughout the summer, and then our peak of cases mid-November when the mask mandate was put in place, and then a gradual, so you typically see on positive cases around the 2-week mark to then expect a gradual decrease in cases, which you can see that we had those lower numbers mid-November, had still a slight peak there in December, and then gradually decreased. So you can see a very gradual decrease in cases since that mandate. The trend of positivity rate for the county is similar to hospitalizations and new positive cases. At the end of 2020, we saw a significant decline with our positivity rate being cut in half, and the decline has continued into 2021 with the most recent positivity rate of 8%, January 25th to the 31st. Next slide, please. And there you can see the dates and the weeks, and then the average positive cases as they begin to decline here towards the end of the year, and then the beginning of 2021. Next slide, please. Now that we are in 2021, coming out of the, next slide, sorry. Thank you. Now that we are into 2021, coming out of the holiday season with the students back in school in anticipation of increased vaccine supply, we need all of our tools to combat COVID-19 in Finney County and continue this downward trend. We expect to see significant numbers in our community to be able to receive the vaccine within the next 4 to 6 weeks, as the Kansas Department of Health and Environment anticipates an increase in vaccine distribution. Even though we expect vaccination availability and distribution to continue to increase, continuing to take preventative actions to protect our community is vitally important. Widespread vaccination will take time, and we must remain diligent. We need all of our residents to play an active part in reducing the spread of COVID-19 and give healthcare providers a fighting chance in vaccinating our population and helping those who require increased medical care. We continue to recommend to practice the 3 W's: watch your distance, wear a face mask in public spaces, and wash your hands often with soap and water for at least 20 seconds, and regularly sanitize frequently used items. We have a number of resources that are available for our community to access on our website, which includes most recent data, press releases, educational toolkits, and all things relating to the COVID vaccine. Thank you so much for the time and your continued support. We're thankful for the opportunity to serve our community, and I'm happy to answer any questions the Commission may have.
Commissioners? Bill, go right ahead.
As a marker for infectious disease, I know the CDC looks at flu rates and RSV, respiratory syncytial virus. What's your experience with those two in the county this year?
So far, we have seen very minimal cases of RSV and flu. We believe that this is an impact of face coverings as well, and that we should continue to see a decline in those cases compared to regular seasons in both of those infections.
Thank you. What's the actual wait list right now, approximately?
The number that's on there,
I've missed it in the stats. 1,200, 1,400, 2,000?
So the original 2,000 that we had on the wait list, we have moved through and contacted all of those that are currently eligible. We are now moving to the next set of eligibility, and I have around 250. But later today, we will be announcing the next sets of populations so that we can begin building that wait list. Last week, we saw several cancellations due to weather. We anticipate those cancellations today. And since we have exhausted that original wait list, we are attempting to gain a new wait list to begin working on. So we're expanding some of those eligibility terms so that we can continue to move through the population and get as many vaccines in arms that we have on supply.
And would you care to expound on what that might be? I mean, we're going to take care of high-risk groups at lower ages than 65?
Sure. So we are looking to expand to 55 through 64 medically compromised. We will be opening that wait list. And then potentially city, county, state employees. This week on Thursday and Friday, we are vaccinating school district and college. So we are pretty rapidly increasing our availability and wait list so that we can continue to push as many vaccines as possible.
And I appreciate you mentioning the staff, school staff vaccinations. You know, as people watch what's happening around the country, some of the objections teachers have had is we're not vaccinated. I haven't seen that here in large scale, so I'm really excited to see that rolled out this week. Finally, I think it's created a little bit of confusion that the city has renewed a mask mandate, and we at the county have overlooked the sunset on our mask mandate, obviously without enforcement. It was more of a mask recommendation. Have you heard about this level of confusion among the citizens, or do you think it's creating a problem?
I believe there has definitely been confusion. We have had several residents that have reached out to us about where the mask mandate applies and if it was extended by the city or county. So we have had that question come up. I would not say that I have been under the impression of mass confusion about it, but we have had requests for more information on it.
So I would turn to my fellow commissioners and say that I think we need to be on the record at some level, especially as the city has continued their mask requirement. I don't remember the dates.
Till March 16th.
March 16th. Again, I'd just like us to be consistent. I realize there's controversy regarding masking. For me, being vaccinated fully, I feel like I'm protecting others. Since these aren't sterilizing vaccinations, we still may be asymptomatic carriers. So each of us has to manage our own risk, but I still think it's important to lead this effort and to mitigate spread, especially as new variants are showing up in our state. And I would solicit comments from my fellow commissioners to see where you might want to go on this.
I'll offer a quick comment. A press release was sent out with my name on it, saying that Finney County supports fully what the city commission took upon themselves and passed a mask ordinance. I'm still waiting to see that appear in any printed or electronic media. So I don't know where the press release went to, but I think it's indicative, Bill, of how hard it is to get the word out to the community. And so we can adopt whatever. I often wonder if we're being fruitful in adopting those recommendations or if anybody's paying much attention. So that's personal view. So Either of you gentlemen have anything to offer? Dwayne?
I'm probably misunderstanding on my dates, but I thought our original one was to the end of March. Is it the 1st of March?
Ours expired at the end of 2020, our county one.
We did.
The city has renewed twice, and their most recent one goes to March 16th.
Robert?
Well, I believe ours was a strong recommendation to wear face coverings, if I remember correctly, not having it right in front of me. And once again, that did end the end of the year of 2020. If that is something that the full board would like to move forward with and run it in conjunction with the city's face covering requirement, we can most definitely do that.
Lon, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, if we did anything more, I would be voting against it again because I still have concerns that masks are causing long-term negative effects that we won't see for a few years and with regard to our immune systems. And I don't believe that has created a mass confusion with the city and the county, and in Dave's press release, and I don't remember the exact number, but most of the people are within the city of Garden City versus Holcomb or unincorporated areas of Finney County. And I don't, I'm not hearing anyone, now maybe there's a question or two, but I'm not hearing any major concerns about with regard to businesses and their requirements or recommendations or whatever they might be. So I would not be in favor of us doing anything more than where we are right now.
There may be no confusion, but there's certainly no compliance. Attended an event with 60 people, I was the only one, and again, fully vaccinated, I was wearing a mask. Attended another event with 120 people, I was one of 6 people with masks. The folks being honored had ICU time and maintained their distance, which is another method. So, and I've been in businesses, restaurants throughout the city where there's no compliance. Fortunately, my own church is complying, so I'm comfortable there. So I think we need to back the city on what they're trying to do. Several of their commissioners have received, frankly, threatening pushback, and that's inappropriate. If anything, we should give them cover by being leaders on this effort, and I really would like at least us to move in support of the city's efforts to mitigate this pandemic.
Do we need to place that on an agenda of the next meeting or two?
No, I think we'll do it now, and I'll make a motion to support the City of Garden City's efforts to mitigate the spread of COVID in our community.
That is exactly what my press release stated. So, in full agreement with you. So, if it would help in agreement, I'd second your motion, because I think all of us are supporting what the city's doing. So, Vaughn may not, but
I have, and words do matter, and I will be voting no against on that motion because I don't support it. The word that I use and have used is I respect it. And people are going to say, well, you're not wearing your mask here in this meeting. But the mandate for face coverings that the city has in place says that if you cannot distance 6 feet, that you should have a face covering on. And we've, for public information, we have asked our staff to make sure we're 6 feet. And I haven't measured it exactly, but it's pretty close to 6 feet apart. So I choose not to when I can be 6 feet away. to not wear a mask. So I don't support the mandate, but I do respect it.
Dwayne?
My question on the motion, is this a mandate or a
This is a recommendation.
recommendation, Doctor?
Recommendation.
I thought the motion was just to support the cities. I didn't hear it as a recommendation.
I'm not making a motion for a county mandate for masks. I'm recommending that we support the city's effort, which includes their mask mandate.
So any other discussion?
Well, now, again, you're kind of recommending a mandate. If the city's mandating and you're wanting a county mandate, I'm still confused, Doctor.
Yeah, I would like that, but, politically, not all things are possible. So that the city has this on record, I'd at least like to show that we back them on their efforts, since most of the mixing of our citizenry is within the city limits.
I'm going to call for the vote. So all those in favor of the motion as you understand it, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
And those opposed?
Nay.
So that motion fails to succeed on a tie vote. So, you agree?
Yeah, I'm glad to have the discussion to remind our citizens of what's important. Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you. I appreciate your time. So good work. I was impressed as one of your clients down at the exhibition building, how efficient that was. And so keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you. I see fairground events, and so Angie, I think this is going to involve a number of people, but we'll start with you.
Okay,
There you go.
thank you for the opportunity. And I want to thank everyone with Pauline's department and the healthcare workers in our city and county. They have just been awesome. They have really worked hard at combating this bad virus during this pandemic. They have worked countless hours and put in a lot, and I just want to put a shout out to them because we are really appreciative of everything that they have done for the health and wellness of our community. Yeah, disinfecting wipes, sorry. It's not going very quietly, so. Okay. All right. The Finney County's primary purpose and function is to support and promote public health and wellness of our community, and that includes all the citizens that we serve. Currently, we've been having health initiatives occurring at the Fairgrounds. We have the COVID-19 testing in the 4-H building, and we also have the mass vaccinations occurring in the exhibition building. We can go on to the next slide, please. I'm here seeking you guys' direction, input, and recommendations for the upcoming events that we have scheduled, continuing to be held. The limits on guests attending activities at our events, that is through the end of March. Just to kind of remind everyone on that, it's at 35%. So I'm seeking guidance on where do we go from the end of March for April on to the rest of the year. So with all due respect to everyone, with Pauline's group and everyone in our healthcare industry, we feel it's important that we work together and united as a whole for the best for our community as we move forward. The next slide, please. This is an outline of the larger events that we've got scheduled at the Fairgrounds, and if you want me to answer questions about any of them, I would be happy to. We just kind of outlined the number of participants, the number of spectators. Do you have any questions? Okay, then we can go on. So what, if any, facility capacity limits for the outdoor stadium are we looking at? That's the question. The Garden City Community College Rodeo would like to utilize our outdoor venue in an effort to spread out their event. So that event is slated for the last weekend of March, which is coming right up. And so I'm asking for your input on, are we at half? Are we at 35%? Are we at every other row? Just you know, kind of looking for some guidance on what do you guys see?
I'm going to offer a statement and then we'll open this up for discussion. When we adopted the 35% recommendation, if you will, that was largely based on what USD 457 was doing. Interestingly enough, I had a phone call last week from the community college. I have a season ticket for athletic events, and they were informing me of the restrictions that the community college is placing on their facilities and the number of people involved. I'm wondering, since this is a community college rodeo you're speaking about, if they're saying that the rules that apply on campus shouldn't apply to their rodeo in the grandstand rodeo arena. So, Lon?
Well, about this specific one, Mr. Chairman, I'm a little bit confused, Angie. On the screen, we have the capacity of 4,200 and those other numbers, but on your previous slide, it says the rodeo in the grandstands, number of participants 450 and spectators at 500. So those two numbers together don't even get to the 1,200, 25%. So I'm not quite sure what our question is.
And that's a very valid point. We're just wanting to make sure, full disclosure here, that everyone's on the same page, and then from one event rolls into the next. When we, you know, with all due respect, you know, if there's going to be any limits, where's it going to be so that the rest of the events that are looking to possibly happen, they have an idea of planning.
Okay. Just a minute, Roger. The spacing you suggested or inquiring about every other row, for example, or the spacing out, I observe it at the church I attend, they have every other row blocked. But here comes a family that has sat together at the dinner table, and so they quite obviously sat together. So there needs to be exceptions to the rule of the spacing. So, Roger, go right ahead.
Yeah, I believe those exceptions are valid. But as far as these rules, anything you implement, just keep in mind, how are we enforcing that? Are we going to, is it going to be self-enforced by whoever's putting the event on? Do we have some liability on enforcement? It's just a question I thought we needed to address.
Okay. Any other comments?
I guess my comment, you know, let's pick on one of the rodeos, for example. Those are usually a 3-day event, as a rule, somewhere there. You have down $3,000 or $4,000. $4,000. Is that total projection over the 3-day period, or is that per night, or can you help me with that?
Rick with PRCA Radios here, I would decline to let him address the estimated number of what he expects to attend his PRCA rodeo event.
Well, that varies from year to year. It depends on the weather. You know, rodeo fans, it can vary. I can say we could expect 2,500 on a good night, maybe.
Can you come to the microphone, please?
I would say maybe 2,500 on a good night at the PRCA rodeo. Depending on the weather.
That would fill the stand in.
Yeah.
Well, it's.
No,
So that's what
the
you
stand capacity is 4,200 is my
That'd
understanding.
be 50% approximately.
Bill, go ahead.
Yeah, well, we lost him from the mic, but can this event cash flow at 50% capacity? I mean, will you hold it if you can only have 2,100 people there?
It'd be tough. it'll be tough. We've struggled getting people there as it is, you know, so if you start cutting us down, we've got to have the people in the grandstand help pay our bills.
Yeah, I mean, I attend the rodeo pretty routinely, and usually it's half full or less.
Yes.
So I wouldn't see 2,100 as being a capacity could live with myself if we kept it at alternate rows. I mean, we can't be asking who is related to whom on that day.
My question would be, how are you going to enforce that? The people that attend the rodeos, a lot of them are pretty headstrong. And we don't have the personnel to go up there and point the finger and say, you sit here and you sit there. We're a pretty small group on our rodeo committee.
Well, I know in my church we rope off every other pew. I realize people can remove those. I guess I could offer a wedding every other row on the seats before they start. Might be a deterrent, but I think we would have to use our imagination. But it would be obviously a suggestion that some would not abide. You're correct.
We're also talking about the PRCA rodeo will be the end of May, so I don't know how much longer this is going to go on. That'd be a question I'd have as well. You know, are the mandates and the stuff going to be over by the end of May? I know the college rodeo is the end of March. I understand, you know, it might not be, the mandates might not be over with by the end of March, but I'm hopeful that by the end of May, maybe things will be a little bit more relaxed.
Yeah, I assure you it will still be going on then. A year ago, I predicted 25 deaths in Finney County. I was unfortunately wrong. We'll surely have 50 before the end of the month, or at least into March. But I think 50% capacity, in my estimation, would be a good planning number, and we may have better knowledge. We will have better knowledge as you approach your date.
Okay.
I might point out that over the weekend was an event that well televised called the Daytona 500. A capacity in their stands of something like 400,000 people, and they allowed 30,000 in. Mandatory mask. Only mandatory didn't mean much to a whole lot of those race fans. They were kind of like your rodeo fans you're talking about.
Exactly.
I saw a few that were actually masked. So I think we can have all the mandates we want, and it's fall on some deaf ears.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
just in a general way, not specific to the PRCA rodeo or the community college rodeo, but if I recall, we placed a 35% restriction on buildings being used at Fairgrounds. It seems to me that the requirement could be increased a little bit to say 50% for outside events. Because of being outside and so forth and so on. And there are benefits, especially in the summer and time and so forth, for vitamin D and exposure out in the summertime, or out in the sun anyhow. So I guess and I appreciate all the work that Angie put into all the documentation that we have, but I wonder whether or not we say 35% inside and 50% outside for our facilities at the fairgrounds, based on the information as we know it today.
I could tend to agree, but may we ask Colleen, do you have any recent update on what USD 457 is doing percent-wise for occupancy in their facilities?
Off the top of my head, I don't recall. Keisha is the one that sets those standards. They have frequently changed. The last I did know, they were still at 35%, but then they modified to either 2 to 4 viewees per student or athletics person. Is it 2 to 4?
It's forward.
It is 4. 4 viewers for each student in athletics. Of course, public health wise, we would still encourage mass social distancing as best as you can, staying with your household members, and capacity limits, just because that helps you increase or decrease interaction with outside of your household members. So that would be kind of what we would urge, especially indoor, outdoor, still with outdoor, decreasing the proximity of non-household members are some of the best recommendations, as well as masks.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but
Sure.
when we talk about 50% capacity in the grandstand, does that cause you to cringe?
50% outdoors is not something that I would have a qualm with. So that every other row would be the best suggestion, as well as spacing between non-household families or attendees.
Yeah, that grandstand seating makes it a little tough trying to walk off every other row. I don't know how we do that easily.
And the other point from my standpoint is, as has been mentioned already, is the enforcement. I really have difficulty with mass police and those kinds of things as an enforcement tool. And so I don't have an answer for that. I don't have a recommendation for that. But again, going back to my outside versus inside requirements.
Bill, go ahead.
Yeah, Dave, I agree with Commissioner Pishney about the inside versus outside, and all we can do is set the venue. And then I think individuals have to manage their own risk at that point. We can't have mass police.
Whatever we do, we need to review this somewhat frequently because the COVID, the epidemic, if you will, is changing as we speak. So we may be able to relax some of those standards some of these days.
Mr. Chairman.
Just going
I guess to comment on that one, a lot of these outfits like the PRCA rodeo, we can't, if we give them the green light at 50%, first of May, we can't come back and say, no, we're gonna drop it to 30%. Because they've got expenses and stuff, it's organization.
And that's gonna be pretty much all of the event sponsors. I
Correct.
mean, that's
Correct.
why I'm here, is.
Dog show,
Right,
affects everybody.
Right, it does impact everybody.
So I think once we set that, we need to be very cautious about tightening it up. And I'm all for the 50% outdoors. I think that's a good compromise.
Well, and that's what I was gonna add. I think we need to review it monthly. But I agree with what Dwayne said. I don't, if we set it at 35% buildings and 50% outside, I don't think we could be any more strict than that. But if we decided to go 50% inside and 75% outside, we could be more liberal, so to speak, in our numbers. But I agree with what Dwayne said. We've got to give them a number that we believe is our most conservative number now.
Yeah, I'm hearing some consensus here for the next month anyway, but 35% inside, 50 outside. And if there's a change, it's not to lower it, it might be to relax that or maintain it. Is that kind of what we're understanding?
And can we do that by consensus?
Since you passed the other one by a formal motion, this should also be a formal motion.
I'll entertain that motion in just a minute, but I'm curious, Angie, while you're there, while we have the representatives here from the Garden City, I can't think of the official title, but the dog show, the kennel. I've understood kind of through the grapevine information that some accommodation is made so that they can have their show, but yet the vaccination area can go on. Can somebody, either you or somebody from the Kennel Club, explain what's new and different and how that's gonna happen?
Well, that is one of the, I mean, that's one of the next slides is, are you guys okay with the dog show moving forward? And then what is the preference on how it looks? These ladies had worked, this is Sandra Brennan and Carla Sauer, and they've worked very hard amongst all of their club members on figuring out how to pull off an AKC dog show. They'll show on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It'll bring in 600 to 900 guests to our community for 3 to 4 night stay. And they're trying their best to figure out how to have the dog show without the exhibition building, but that's 30,000 square feet. We're just wanting to make sure that everyone is all on the same page. So we felt it was best to bring this to you guys for your direction and input. So we're very respectful of Colleen's efforts, and it's hard for her to know how many vaccines she's gonna get at the end of April. So that's kind of where we're at with this is what is your preference?
My personal preference, when I received a phone call from the county administrator saying, what's your feeling about allowing or not allowing the dog show, was that if it disrupted the vaccination effort, then I would ask that we hold off on the dog show. I haven't really changed that position very far, but if there can be an accommodation, and talking to Colleen, she's prepared to make some adjustments, so let's share that with.
We can increase our vaccination numbers the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday prior to the dog show. So tear down and setup would be Thursday through the following Monday, and then we would set up on Tuesday. So I would lose vaccinations on a Thursday, Friday, and Monday. So on those days, I have several avenues that we could pursue. So either increase vaccinations on the 3 days prior, and also do mobile and remote vaccination to our community, since we have a mobile medical unit. We could do that. We also have some other backup options of doing a drive-up method at the health department that we have done very successfully, as well as looking at other indoor locations to offer vaccinations. So if it's an event that the commission would like to support, we are happy to relocate so that that event may happen.
Okay. So now, understanding that, before we take a motion on percentages and so on, are we, as a commission, in agreement to support, or are we against inviting the dog show?
Well, Mr. Chairman, and Bill will appreciate this more than and better than anybody else, but we're getting into the means of operations within the county versus the ends and the results that we want to see. We want to see, activity, economic activity within the county. We want to see vaccinations within the county. But how that happens, I believe, is done with our motion that the buildings are limited to 35% and our outdoor venues are limited to 50% at this particular point. And then if the fairgrounds and the county health and the dog show can work that out, I'm all for that. So I don't think we sit here on each and every one, and I'm just speaking as one of 5, well, today, 1 of 4. I don't think we sit here on each one of these events and make a decision from this room, other than our general policy is 35% in the buildings, 50% outside limitations, and then we want to see vaccines go on and we want to see events go on.
Yes, we can respectfully disagree and still be friends, because we have some people here from representing the dog show owners would like an answer. We have somebody here from the rodeo wanting an answer, so.
And I think they worked that out with the county health and with the fairgrounds.
I agree with Commissioner Finney.
Okay. So now I'll entertain a motion for setting percentages.
At this particular time, and with a review a month from now, or the meeting a month from now, I would recommend or suggest that our limitation for inside facilities at the fairgrounds be 35%, and our limitation for outside menus be 50% and reviewed in that, in 30 days.
There a second?
Clifford seconds.
There a motion second, any further discussion? And all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That passes. Angie, we'll let you work that out with county administrator and with county health department director.
We'll do that.
And ladies, good luck.
Thank you.
We want to see all of this work, so.
So do we.
Thank you.
Next up says Public Works update. Go, Roger.
How are you, gentlemen? And Dory.
Boy, you're quick.
Okay, Rick. He pays bills and stuff. First thing I'd like to talk about is around town to Riverview South, the dumping that's been going on out there. Of course, Finney County has for the past several years been involved in spring and fall cleanup. During this time, the citizens are afforded the opportunity to haul trash to designated areas throughout the county, and then we use the county workforces to pick up that trash. City of Garden City is also involved in this effort, and the county normally waives the $2 per ton municipal waste fee. Counties use several places throughout the county, but we've used Towns Riverview South several times in the past. Unfortunately, this site has become a place for dumping throughout the year. When the fall cleanup concluded last year, people continued to bring trash and debris to the site. There'll be some pictures going up here for you. This being on private ground, I attempted to help the landowner by getting law enforcement involved in this issue. Law enforcement did put out cameras, covert cameras, and did catch people dumping what we thought would be illegally on this property. Law enforcement contacted these people and were told that the landowner allows dumping there throughout the year. I contacted the eldest owner of this property, and he stated that that there wasn't any signs up, and didn't really have an issue with it at that time. But as you can see from the pictures, there's an issue out there that we need to wrap our hands around somehow. At the conclusion of the dumping, spring and fall cleaning, we put up the signs, and last year we actually wrapped it in fencing. You can't see it because of the couches and bedding and whatever there, but we did put up telephone poles. And actually in that far northwest corner, we put up, we hauled in dirt so that, because there was a drive coming in up there, and blocked that area off to keep people out of that area. Basically, we need some guidance. I don't believe Finney County should be responsible to be continually called upon to clean up this area. Unless otherwise directed, I plan on skipping this area as I'll present in the next, when we talk about spring cleanup. Just throwing it out there.
Mr. Chairman, since this is in my district and south of where I live, first of all, I knew some of this was going on. I hadn't been down there for a little while and didn't realize how severe it was until a former commissioner called me and said he's having trouble with trash flowing from this unauthorized dumping area into his fields and his pastures. And so then it got my attention right away, and I contacted Roger, and we started the conversation about this. But the other piece of this information is the elder landowner has given up management of the two subdivisions to a grandson. And the grandson told me as recent as yesterday that there is no dumping that's to be permitted here except if it's being used as a site for spring and fall cleanup. And they had provided some flyers the last time there was a cleanup. But as you can see, people are not adhering to that, and they're dumping there continually. And so the the person that Roger needs to communicate with is not the one that he was understanding he needed to communicate with, and that's no fault. I'm not pointing fingers at Roger at all. But we're going to make sure that he's communicating with the grandson going forward. My thought is that we no longer use this, and I've already asked our subdivision to put it out on our Facebook page, that we no longer use this for a spring and fall cleanup, that the county helps the landowner a little bit more, making sure there's a secure fencing or something. I don't know how we do that exactly, to shut off the dumping period, and that the county be involved in helping clean up this area in that process, and once it is cleaned up, that we somehow secure the area for it and help the landowner out. Because this has been going on for a number of years. The landowner, the senior landowner has been too lenient, and in my opinion, and we need to do some enforcement to stop this unauthorized dump site.
I will, I'll interject there real quick too, that the elder landowner didn't even know it was signed. We signed it after, every year we sign it the next day after the scheduled dumping.
And there's, excuse me.
Just the
Well,
fact that he didn't realize it was signed.
And there's some family issues going on with the senior landowner that that doesn't surprise me a bit, because he has been preoccupied with family issues. But the grandson is very well aware of this, and I think we can get some cooperation there.
I just need basically some guidance going into the next item on your agenda.
Trouble is, that there's not a driveway to get to this area. That ditch, if you will, the part bit bigger ditch is drivable about anywhere up and down that road, is it not?
Well, actually, there's a driveway right
Right.
next to this that goes to our lift station.
Yeah,
We do have a lift station set, it's in fact just left of that picture.
My point on bringing this up is putting a cable with a padlock or something across that isn't gonna prevent people from driving around the driveway. They can go right through the ditch and into there, can they not?
Yeah, there's a lot of ditch that they can just drive through, that's very true. As you can see by that picture, we have that small square there as a lift station.
well, Mr. Chairman, just to clarify what I'm trying to say, I think we need to, as a county, need to help the landowner clean this up one last time. But I think we need to, whether it's cables, whether it's fence around it, we need to work with the landowner and see what we can do to secure it. We've got to get into the lift station, and also the water well house is off to the west of this site just a little bit, and so that has to be accessible by KDHE and others, because they're using that right now to provide water.
The picture above, the one that's on our screen, right there, indicates where the next dumping site is. It's immediately off of the blacktop.
Yeah.
If you.
Well, a lot of that's when we had that high north wind too.
It may be, but I can,
Oh, but no, what you're talking about happens a lot.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we, going north on Towns Road, there's signs, and it doesn't keep people from dumping, but it helps law enforcement.
Yeah.
There's signs about do not dump, here. I think we need to probably post Old Post Road that same way somehow in the future going forward.
You have a few of those signs left in your inventory, Roger?
We can make them.
Okay. Bill?
Yeah, I'm sympathetic to the landowner, but I would agree one last cleanup, and it sounds like the grandson would be for ticketing dumpers.
Oh, yeah.
So, I think that needs enforcement going forward. And I like the way he handled it before, obviously frustrating because they thought they were told they had permission. So, I know it's a burden for Roger and his guys, but I do think one last cleanup and then enforcement is appropriate.
Okay, Dwayne?
I guess I'm not quite so generous. I would waive the fees at the landfill, but I think that's on the landowner's responsibility because the signs were there and he didn't stop it. So, you know, I'm all for waiving fees, but I'm not so sure I'm ready to commit county labor to pick up the mess.
That's why I brought it to you guys.
Take a county front-end loader about a 2-hour period to pick that mess up. That's,
Well, actually, the separation of it is what the issue is.
Yeah.
That's what we spend a lot of our time doing, is separating the tires from the metal, from the wood. That's what takes the time. The equipment gets up there and picks it up like that. That's very true. But it's the separating that takes the time.
well, we didn't fix that problem. What's your next problem?
I guess,
Let me suggest this, Roger, with the board's, okay, let me work with Roger and we'll come up with a solution.
Okay.
Knowing what the intent is.
Let's fix this.
Your new sites, would you discuss those just a little bit? The 3 new sites you wanted to use instead?
you bet. That's J.K. Reynolds on Lincoln Road. It's the same intersection as last year, Acosta on West Mary, and then Whitehurst over there on Hillcrest, which is not very far from this dump site.
It's not far.
Yeah. So that Whitehurst dump site could actually be utilized for people in that area. And I guess what I'd like to know, I guess, is if you want to go with these 3 dump sites for the spring cleanup, or if we go with 4. That's kind of what I don't know.
But didn't you just suggest, Roger, that you didn't want to use this as a...
I do not.
And I do not. Not this side that we're.
Is there another more compact area that you could set a dumpster out there?
Well, we don't set out dumpsters as a rule.
No, I understand, but dumpsters have been brought there, have they not, by someone? In the north side or something?
In our north subdivision, our subdivision pays for a dumpster to be placed there twice.
But
That's not addressed in this.
that HOA pays for that dumpster, not.
Right, that's correct.
And we also need to waive the tipping fee, correct?
Yes, for the spring cleanup.
So that I think we've done by motion, so.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we use the 3 sites that Roger just listed, J.K. Reynolds, Acosta Homes, and Whitehurst, for the spring cleanup and waive the $2 fee.
Clifford seconds.
Motion second, discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that passed.
And now we'll just work together with Robert and Alon.
I'll get a number, we'll get something figured out down
Okay. Water trucks. We sent out bids to replace a water truck. Just a little background here. Our newest water truck is a 1990 Ford LT 9000. It's got a lot of miles on it. The odometer says 7,951, but nobody knows if that's 100 or 200. So, we've got our money's worth out of our current water trucks, and we use our water trucks daily when we're either building or maintaining roads. So it's a very important part of what we do. We sent out bids to, what did I get? 7 different companies for bids. 2 from Garden City. Sent out the same specs to all these individual companies with the best and closest to the specs we required coming in from Peterbilt here in Garden City. I'd like a motion to accept the bid from Peterbilt and Garden City for the water truck coming out of special equipment.
A couple questions for you. On your last I saw of your inventory, you had an old International water truck, and then you had a GMC, though that was a long time ago, but one had a steel tank on it, one had a fiberglass tank, as I recall, and if my recollection's correct, Palmer tank built the fiberglass tank, is that registered?
I'm not sure about who built what back then, honestly.
Well, my point of bringing this up is, as you're taking bids, is this a truck equipped with a tank, or is it a truck without a tank, and now we're gonna put a tank on it?
No, it's with the tank. We did an all-encompassing bid. We didn't want to piecemeal it together. So these were bid out as a water truck. Yes.
Polyurethane or probably most likely not fiberglass.
Yeah.
But we'll
Yeah,
call that,
fiberglass. It had
you are buying a truck that will last you a long time.
I hope so. Yes.
I've got one that has 2.3 million miles on it, so
No,
that's
this
a
is
new goal for you.
No, this is a new water truck. We actually.
I know, but I'm just saying this Peterbilt will go 2.3 million
You're
miles.
saying it will, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a good quality product. You know, and honestly, we checked into it, and Robert had me check into, getting some used water trucks from different rental companies, and, you know, for the price you're gonna pay for a used truck and the equipment that we saw, we looked at 2 different trucks, and it was not a good truck, so.
I've not done a good job of reading all of your specs. Is that a 3,500 gallon tank?
35 or 4,000 off the top of my head, I don't remember.
So you're talking a tandem truck?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, and your recommendation is take the Peterbilt bid?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move that we accept the bid for the Peterbilt truck at $127,990 as presented.
And I would add that it be taken from special equipment and then second the motion.
And you have the money in that equipment fund to?
Yes, sir, we got 925, 411 right now with commitments of another 127,000, other than this truck.
Any other discussion or questions? All in favor of the motion, then to accept that Peterbilt bid, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Buy your truck.
Thank you, sir. Anything else? Well, here. All right.
Thank you, Roger.
Thank you, guys.
Krista?
Good
Didn't see you
morning.
back there a while ago. Were you hiding?
No, not quite. Just checking in.
Go right ahead.
Hello, so I wanted to present you with an annual sales tax report. It is our intention to go ahead and give you this report once a year, with quarterly updates as appropriate. So I just want to give you a brief overview. So the county does collect 1.3% in sales tax throughout the county. It's divided between 4 unique purposes that have 4 different sunset dates. So I provided an overview for you in the packet of that, as well as copies of the ballot questions and resolutions as appropriate. So our sales tax numbers for 2020 was actually down from 2019 by about $86,700 or so. So we were expecting a decrease in part due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We did see a decrease, but it wasn't as impactful as we anticipated it would be. And so following that, I also have some trends for you to review. Do you have any questions for me about different aspects of the sales tax?
I'm having a little bit of trouble here.
Oh.
Could you please? Thank
I
you.
sure can, yeah, sure.
These things don't work very well.
I understand.
Thank you.
Sure. So, does anybody have any question about the different types of sales tax that we collect, the sunsets on them, or the different trends that we're seeing?
I think you've done a nice job of reporting here.
No, I would agree. I mean, the big gorilla is the state, though. I mean, they take, what, 6% of this?
Yeah, they do take quite a big portion. This is just talking about what Finney County actually levies.
Right.
So.
Just like
wanted
the
you to-
citizens to know that most of it's flowing.
That's
through
correct,
Egypt.
yeah. In most of the county, there is tax levied by the state, the cities, the county, and then also there is a small sales tax levied by the Horse Thief Reservoir.
Any questions, comments?
Well,
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, And I don't go to the website and look at all this stuff, but is this kind of information on the website as far as the breakdown of the sales tax and so forth? That if people who are watching want to find out more about it?
Sure, so it is in the agenda packet. That's where we have it. We don't regularly post it on the website, but as far as distributions the county receives, they can see lump sums at the state website.
I believe we as a county and as the city, Garden City, have fared much better than some of our neighboring communities have in terms of tax collection. And our retail industry here has kept us on the more positive side. So,
I would absolutely agree with that.
anything else? Well, we appreciate your nice report.
Sure, anytime. Thank you.
Thank you, Trista. Board governance, do we have anything there that we need to bring up on the legislative platform? Any?
During our work session, Mr. Chairman, we discussed it, but do we not need to officially adopt that at this meeting?
I have a list of things that in our work session we were going to discuss. And I can go through it real quick. County survey review, we've done that. The horse thief sales tax, the community service center sales tax, the property, and we're going to discuss that soon on. Fireworks, road improvements, and legislative policy. So it was on that list. So what do you want to adopt?
Well,
Go ahead.
No, excuse me, I didn't mean to interrupt. Well, I think, Mr. Chairman, first of all, Robert had worded it, if you can go down on our screens, another slide or two, another page or two, I should say. And then the next page. And we had said, you know, the last few years that we've just simply, in that preamble, said we've supported other policy, other legislative policies. And then we've reiterated in that the last several years the mandated services that we have required of us. And then we had a statement with regard to advocacy. And Robert, I assume you did the wording on this, so I'm giving.
Actually, I think Dory made some changes,
Okay.
but the only changes that were really made were the deletion from the prior year and updating the date as well as the signature page.
Yeah, I couldn't remember it, and I didn't look at it compared to last year's advocacy. But anyhow, just a statement that we're in favor of advocating for local control and so forth, and that we're supportive of these other policies. So I personally believe that this should be our statement, so that we're not reinventing the wheel, that we're not coming up with another document of 6, 7 pages or 4 pages or whatever it might be. So I'm in favor of this kind of a summary. And before I make that motion, though, to adopt this, I do want to call your attention to 2 things, and I hope each of you are getting the KAC emails. And there's two bills that are getting hearings today, and one of them is for the constitutional amendment to have counties be under constitutional home rule instead of statutory home rule, and that is Senate Concurrent Resolution 1606. And that one is, if that were to come through the legislative process this year, would be on the ballot in November of '22, where the other constitutional amendment that was passed for the value of both lives, or however that was worded, it's on the August 22 ballot. So I don't know where it's going to go, but today they're having hearings on that one. And then secondly, there's Senate Bill 153 that we were alluded to, that that's in, and both of these are in the local government committee of the Senate. And that one is giving, or it's an optional thing, but it's term limits for county commissioners. And I have some reservations about that one because I think we're term limited now locally, better than at the state level or the federal level by the voters. So it's kind of interesting to me. So with those things being said, right now there's a couple of things already with regard to local control and control from the county perspective where we're closest to the people. So I mentioned those things, Mr. Chairman, to illustrate that I believe that we're stating our position correctly, and therefore I would move that we adopt this as our legislative platform for 2021.
I'll second this, Dr. Clifford.
And it's nice and succinct and to the point, so.
But I did see, it just caught my attention now, and that first paragraph should be 2021.
Yeah, that'll be corrected, correct?
Yep.
All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That passes. So,
And then lastly, Mr. Chairman, not to belabor the point, but we were asked by that email if we wanted to provide some testimony and so forth, and to have it to the contact with that committee by noon today, I think it was, or 11 o'clock today. And I'm always hesitant to do that when we haven't discussed a specific bill here in the boardroom. So I did not offer any written testimony, and obviously it's a little bit harder to offer verbal testimony this year. But I am very conscious of the fact that it needs to be the five of us before I offer that testimony. So I will try to come to you if the KHC asks me to testify very specifically, and this was more of a general request.
I had that feeling the other day when I had a message from the city to please come sign a letter about sharing sales tax. And having no discussion with the fellow commissioners, I felt ill at ease until I did a little bit of research and found out that was the same position we approved last year, so I went over and signed that. So, anything else before we go to reports? No, Robert, it says county administrator report.
Alrighty, just a few things of note. As Jeff alluded to with your Spark update, we went through last week a couple of reports that we pushed out. One of them was Melissa Sparks' report, and we're finalizing the detail on that. The other one was the connectivity grant report, which went out late Friday afternoon, and we're waiting some feedback on that. Remember, that's the one that the county is still awaiting the second half payment on, which is a little over $923,000. So, kind of anxious to get that going as well, as you can imagine. I do want to reiterate, and I know that the commission has made the comments before, with Steve's activity here over the last week and preparing for this cold weather. He kept in contact with me well over the weekend.
Dwayne's having trouble understanding. There we go.
Thank you. Sorry there.
I feel sorry.
Didn't know if he was reading lips or what. But anyway, Steve kept in touch with me over the weekend on things that were going on here in the community as far as the housing and so forth. And so I want to thank Steve openly for that, as well as Colleen over the last week, and their numbers being down a little bit over vaccination just because of the cold weather and so forth, which I think we kind of knew, but I'm really impressed with the number of vaccinations that we've gotten out I also understand that there's more efforts being solicited by way of whether it is a Walmart or Dillon's or some of the local pharmacies. So hopefully we'll keep the momentum going there. That's very important. Worked extensively with Angie and Colleen both on the Fairgrounds project, trying to mitigate that risk and reduce, making sure that we maintain the momentum with that the health department has gained over the past few months on their efforts on the pandemic. We did have just a brief update on the vaccination numbers last week, and that's a standing meeting that we normally have on Thursday mornings prior to the Spark meeting, and Colleen had an update for both Commissioners Dave Jones and Dr. Clifford on that, bringing up to speed. Just keeping them abreast of what's going on and the efforts there. Then, really, other than that, I know that, and Dory may want to add some to this, but we are preparing for the county audit, and we're working with the county fiscal committee to moving forward kind of where we left off last year before the pandemic hit on various financial policies and procedures to follow. So with that, that concludes my briefing, subject to your questions.
Yes, sir, Juan.
Mr. Chairman, one thing I forgot to ask Steve, and he's left the room, is whether he's made contact with the nursing homes and even the assisted living homes here in the community, because my family member that's at the ranch house, her room has been about 60 degrees here the last few days because they've had a heat HVAC issue, and they had a water break in some area of the home at the ranch house. And so I'm wondering, my point is, I'm wondering whether these facilities know who to contact if they have an emergency, if they have a need for heaters, or if they have a need for whatever it is that Steve might be able to help them with. So just reaching out to them and knowing that those folks are very vulnerable to, this cold weather and so forth.
I'll go ahead and relay that message. The other thing that I wanted to touch base real quick on, which I forgot to do in my briefing here, was that we did discuss meeting with the city to discuss that 1/4% sales tax issue. Jennifer's reached out to me and mentioned that either March 1st or 2nd may work for them. I believe March 1st is our first meeting, is that correct?
It is.
Okay. So we could have it perhaps in the afternoon with the city, or March 2nd, which is would be that Tuesday, probably prior to their meeting. So just run that past you to see what your preference is.
Go right ahead.
And first for me.
First.
And I think we're supposed to have a luncheon that day on the 1st. Kelly's email.
No, that got moved to,
That's moved to the 15th.
Oh, was it
Second
15?
meeting.
Oh, I was thinking this first meeting, March.
It was, they had to,
It was.
they had to put it.
Okay. Never mind.
the first would work.
Okay. All right, I'll go ahead and relay that to the city for the first.
And is that gonna, well, we'll discuss that at the time, but is that the only item on the agenda with the city?
No, I think they mentioned that they may have some other items. Are there any other items that the county would like to
These
discuss?
days, we need to decide about fireworks. We put that off and put it off. Some folks need to be ordering fireworks for
Just as a point on that, I did reach out to Carol Davidson to meet with her this week on that very topic.
Okay.
So we can get something resolved on that.
All right. Okay, so that's it, Robert, for now?
Can I ask, I apologize, can I ask what time we would do that joint session? Or do we not know yet?
Don't know the time yet. I'm anticipating it would be in the afternoon.
Okay.
Okay.
Law, unless,
Well,
your report.
well, and that's fine, but on the screen, we have the sale of county property. Is that a separate item, or is that in your report?
Yes, that's the other thing that was the due out from last meeting's discussion, was a formal approach on the disposal of real property by the Board of County Commissioners. Recall, I briefed you that traditionally on a real property, especially those pieces of property that are in excess of $50,000, normally you go out for a sealed bid. So I just need some formal direction from the board. Is that what you are wanting to do, knowing that you have perhaps went through this evolution before and have kind of fallen through? And then I will offer one thing, is that I was approached last week by an individual coming into my office and asking when the county was going to sell the property on 8th Street, because this individual was interested. So I'll just leave it at that for your discussion.
Go ahead.
I know we've attempted to take sealed bids on these 3 properties in the past. But, that's still the appropriate position. I think we need to go through that process one more time myself. And hopefully the individual who is interested in 8th Street will get that property. But I think it needs to be according to policy. Still procedure needs to be followed.
You have anything?
No, I agree. I think there is a bit of an exception for not-for-profits that we could consider at the time the bids are opened. But I agree with Commissioner Dries that we need to go through the process.
I had a little visit with Robert in his office with a suggestion. State law is going to require the sealed bid on because of the value of that property exceeds certain limits. But what would you think about employing, for the purpose of advertising, drumming up somebody interested, listing that, so to speak, with a real estate company, with a realtor that deals in commercial real estate? Let them go see if they could sell it. Sell the idea of somebody submitting sealed bids to the county commission by a certain time. We're not doing a good job of advertising it apparently, and so would anybody support that?
Mr. Chairman, I think we just simply go through our standard sealed bid process first, and if that's not achieving any results, then we go to that suggestion as an alternative.
Yeah, I just
Then
wonder if
I
that
think we do our sealed bid just like we did the water truck and so forth. I realize this is a different, this is real estate versus equipment, but
I drive by that piece of property frequently, and all I notice is that everybody else will scoop for sidewalk, but that's not. It needs a sign out in front that says it's for sale. And I don't know how to do that otherwise. So anyway, I guess what the consensus is, Robert, is one more time go seal bid and see what happens.
that would be my suggestion.
Okay.
Would need a formal motion, since this involves real estate, and to dispose of it by sealed bids.
That's on the 8th Street property, but let's talk the other two right quick before we take a bid. The piece of property over by the railroad tracks, I'm wondering in that bid if that could include offering that to the next door, to the neighbor who owns property right next to it, see if he'd like to have a little bigger piece of property. And we can't sell it, I don't know what you put there if you sold it. And then the one on 11th or 12th Street, that might have a little value. It's a narrow lot, so if anybody wanted to build there, it'd have to be a pretty small house. That needs to probably be treated differently, and maybe a seal bid there would work, but I don't see how you can drum up anybody interested in a seal bid. So.
Mr. Chairman, I still think we need even these other properties, which are most likely will not grow seal bid, they did the last time. But I think we need to go through the process with all three and then get creative, like Commissioner Finney suggested. In case we have no bids on those properties, get creative as you suggest.
And
But, so in effect, I will move that we put these properties that are listed, approve that they go up to a seal bid, and let our administrator set up the timetable.
And I would second that. And with the comment that I think we need to make sure we're reaching out to the neighbors of those other two properties, to let them know that there is a sealed bid process as part of our, I mean, not necessarily part of the motion, but as part of our process.
I look at this aerial view of the 11th Street property. It's kind of a shame you couldn't draw a line right down through the middle of that and then say half of that to this neighbor and the other half to the other one. And then they suddenly have use of a little more property. But right now, who's going over to mow that and keep it up? Is somebody from the county, I'm assuming.
I'm not aware. I think the last time I looked at it during the summer, it wasn't much mowing to it, so.
All right, we have a motion. We have a second, do we not?
Yeah.
All those in favor of that motion say aye.
Aye.
That passes. So list them.
Thank you.
Might put one of those sock signs out there in front of the club and give people's attention. All right, now, commissioner reports, Lon.
Sorry to distract you and take you off track, Mr. Chairman. I don't have any particular meetings or anything, but during the legislative session, I try to keep up pretty closely with what's happening in Topeka and in our various counties around here. And a couple of just quick side notes. The headline the other day was Hayes sales tax revenues up in 2020 despite COVID. The pillow tax, as he calls it, is down nearly 30%. My point of mentioning that is it's very similar to what's happened here in Finney County. Sales tax up, ed tax down. The other thing is Senate Bill 13 is progressing, and that's the transparency bill for property tax with notifications and so forth. I think we need to continue to keep our eye on that. KAC got some amendments into the House version of that bill, and now it's in, I don't know if it's there yet, but it's to go to conference committee. But I'm very concerned about that bill yet personally, because it just trades one thing that burdens us with another thing that's going to burden us. And the cost is going to be picked up by the counties unless they get something changed with regard to that. And then the other thing that I just wanted to mention is with regard to RHID, or the Rural Housing Incentive, I think it's called, districts is what that acronym stands for, through the Department of Commerce. And I've been communicating with the Department of Commerce because of my personal concern about what is created with regard to cities annexing, because if we're in a county of 36,000, I think excuse me, now I forgot what the number is, less than so many thousand people, I was under the impression that we as a county could not request an RHID, that it had to be the city, and then they would have to skip annex like they've done on on some subdivisions and so forth. I was set straight, and it's, now I don't know, I think I might have misplaced it. But there is a statute, yeah, I did misplace it. There is a statute in place that allows counties to, that are less than a certain population, to apply for RHID. And so I think we need to have that on our radar. It may or may not be applicable to us in Finney County sometimes, but maybe it will lessen the skip annexing, maybe make the process simpler for the developer and so forth, if we might, as a county, apply for RHID versus the city. And I'm not saying that it's a competitive thing and we're trying to, compete with the city, but I was under the impression for a number of years that we were not able to do that. Only the city of Garden City could do that. And I was set straight because the Secretary of Commerce sent me the statute number, and I thought I had it here, and I don't. It's laying on my desk in the office with my phone, I guess. But I think we need to be aware of that if that comes up, that we could, in fact, do that as a county and not have to go through all the hoops of skip annexing and so forth, so.
You want to add a comment?
Actually, the other topic that I'd spoken with Carol Davison about was just that topic, and so perhaps we could have her in to do a briefing on that program.
And I can get you the statute number and stuff too, because David told and sent that to me, and I thought I had it laying here, and I don't. I'll get you that statute number.
Good information, Carolyn, thank you. Anything else?
Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry, no.
All right, Wayne?
Most of my meetings have been canceled due to the cold. We did have a couple of emergency loan approvals to replace development. And other than that, that's pretty much it.
Bill?
Received a lot of positive citizen feedback on the vaccination clinic and how well they were served there. We had our vaccination meetings, as Robert mentioned, on Thursday. Also spoke with Matt Tull at Dillon's, and they are about to start, he said, Thursday of this week. I was on a KLPG conference call Friday, and a NACO call. I think maybe you were on the NACO call. I didn't get too much out of that, but I think we need to pay attention to what's coming out of DC. I visited the vaccination center, and then also talked with the nurse at Garden City Community College about the anticipated vaccination of their personnel. And was on the GOP call with Congressman Mann last night. I have a meeting with him tomorrow, and we'll meet with the AG on Thursday. That's it.
Okay, I don't have much. Most of my activities already been reported on. We had, since our last commission meeting, had one spark Thursday morning meeting with Jeff and Julianne, and then this last week had none, but we did have a nice report from Colleen on vaccination activity. I made a couple of 3 trips down to the exhibition building, and I marvel at how well our community, I'm going to give everybody credit, how well they work together. And then I had the honor of having a shot, couldn't even feel it. It did such a good job. I regret to inform you that I fell down on one of my responsibilities and I missed the LAPC meeting the other day. But there were some people in town due to an eye surgery. And I had good friends of mine that from up in the Beeler area, I hadn't seen in about I don't know how many years, and we went to lunch and got started telling old war stories, and I forgot and missed LAPC. So, and that's, I kind of think is it for my report. We need 2 executive sessions, and let's start off with the first one. It says, the legal consultation, who all do we need to involve?
Other than the board and myself would be your HR director as well.
The what, Sue?
Your HR director, I'm sorry.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, and Kelly's aware of that?
Yes, she is.
Yeah,
All right,
she is.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we go into executive session for no more than 15 minutes for the discussion of legal matters and according to KSA 4319B4 and include Robert Reese and Callie Manning
Okay. So
with the commissioners.
Question, will we have our counselor by Zoom or telephone?
It'll be by phone.
By phone?
Oh, yeah, right, and council.
Clifford seconds.
Good one.
Okay, are we ready to vote on did you second that, Bill?
Yes, sir.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that passes, and we go to the executive session back at 11 o'clock.
No later than that.
back on, and then you guys can do.
Back on. Move for 15 more minutes of executive session, including our human rights person Kelly, and the attorney Robert Reese, and the commission for purposes of attorney-client privileges. 15 more minutes and no decisions will be made.
And I will second.
Have a motion to second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, be back.
You are now.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, we moved into an executive session for non-elected personnel up to 15 minutes, including Dory, Kelly, and our administrator, and the commissioners.
Okay, put in county clerk, county administrator, and county HR director.
Second.
All right.
Aye.
guess we got everybody, okay, we can officially,
Your, mic, please.
sorry about that. We can officially report that our executive session's over and no action was taken.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion that, well, let me preface. We've had an interlocal agreement with regard to our county councilor with the city. At this particular time, I would make a motion that we terminate that interlocal agreement based on whatever the terms are within that agreement for termination.
Clifford seconds.
We have a motion and a second to terminate the interlocal agreement with the city of Garden City regarding county council. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries. Anything else to come before the commission before we adjourn? We need to shake this here.
I think I did already.
Oh, we did, okay. Well, with that then, until March 1, we are adjourned.